Hello, please let me know in the chat whether you can hear my voice so that we can begin. Okay, thank you, Edmond. So we'll just jump into the agenda for the day. Okay, so as you saw in the registration, today we will familiarize ourselves with an introduction to computer programming in general, and we will go ahead and configure the IDEs that we installed, that is PyCharm and VS Code, short for Visual Studio Code. We will look at how to create projects and project files and how we can also write our first program. So I'll go ahead and start with the presentation. As usual, I'll be keeping an eye on the comments for your questions and address them as they come in. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is what I think I can just skip. So the obvious question, what is computer programming? I didn't mean to bring that slide up, sorry. Usually when we talk about computer programming, what people think about is some uh, cryptic text on the screen, something that is so difficult to understand, something that might require some superpowers to even grasp what it means and all. People doing some kind of impossible thing. All these thoughts about computer programming, and that is because sometimes the pictures that we see with code usually they look some way, if I should put it that way, with brackets and a lot of stuff in there, but that is not to scare us at all. When we say computer programming, if I should give what I would say a non-technical explanation, it is a form or a process where we communicate with a computer. Computers are able to do certain things faster and more accurate than human beings. And so most of the times we find out that we will need our computer to do something for us. And before I can communicate with you to give you my intent or tell you something that you will understand and also in turn do something for me or even respond to what I'm saying, then you and I should have a common grounds for our understanding. So you should be able to understand what I'm saying, process it, and then give me your reply, which I should also understand. So human beings and computers want to interact. How do we speak with a computer? And what language that the computer even speaks and understands? And if you do a quick search, you find out that the computers, they understand and operate in binary. Everything inside the computer's memory is zeros and ones. So how do we begin to speak with something that operates or works or understands binary? I mean zeros and ones. So whatever you find out soon that whatever we do to the computer gets translated into zeros and ones, and that is what it is able to read inside your processing unit. A series of electronic components like the transistors that switch some things on and off depending on the value or what they want to do in terms of zeros and ones. So it will become very difficult if we want to write in binary and translate it directly to the computer's language. So in this case, we need some kind of an interpreter to stand between us and the computer. The interpreter being able to understand us and the computer as well. So it understands what we are saying. It understands the computer also. So the interpreter will take what we intend to tell the computer and then translate it in a way that the computer understands, give it to the computer, and in that case, the computer understands it because what is going to the computer is not directly what we gave it, but what the interpreter has translated our language into. And the computer will take it because it's now in its language, will understand it, process it, give the result to the interpreter, and in turn, the interpreter will interpret the computer's language to what we will understand. I told you in the introduction that I am also a geospatial analyst. So I analyze location-based information. One of the, I think in 2023 last year, I was part of a project for almost the whole year, analyzing their location data for them. And it got to a point that we had to go and pick in situ data. I mean, data on grounds. We wanted real-time information to put in our report. Like we at that point, we needed the data as it is on ground. So we had to go to another location and then pick the data. So when we are going to do the mapping, the indigents of that place don't speak the language that I speak. The local language is something that I was totally unfamiliar with. And so what happened was that if I meet somebody who can understand English, which now becomes the common language of our understanding, I am able to speak directly with a person. But there were some instances that I met a group of people, and then the people who knew where I was going to or what the place that where what I'm looking for was were the indigents among that group of people who did not understand English. And those people who could speak some English are the people who don't know it. So in that case, they were my translators, or let me say my interpreters. So when I speak English, they will take it, give it to the indigents in that language, which I don't understand. As they speak, I just look at their faces. And then in turn, the indigents will also reply, and then they will also tell it to me in English. So that is what computer programming is all about. And this interpreter scenario that I'm making all this while is the programming languages. They work as our interpreters, sit between us and the computer, and ensure that the communication flow is effective. So a more technical explanation of it will be that computer programming is designing instructions that a computer can understand and follow to perform tasks. So whether it is clicking a button on your screen, whether it's saving some text, whether it's trying to convert something to a PDF, or trying to play music, pause the music, or anything that you want to do with a computer, once you perform an action like a click, a keystroke, it is something that you are instructing the computer to do. And behind the hood, what makes those actions possible is that somebody has written code that understands that signal that you are trying to give to the computer, the signal being the keystroke or the mouse click. And so in order to write, in order to program or code, we have to use programming languages. And there are a lot of programming languages out there. In fact, the list is very, very tall. You can do a quick search on Wikipedia. They will give you all the lists that's publicly available. People actually have their own programming languages too that they use. So the list, as I said, is a very tall one. But there is Python, which we'll use for our training. There is also the popular C++ programming language. There is Java also, And then there is JavaScript, very popular for its web usage. But it can also be used to develop other applications also. There are frameworks in JavaScript that can help you develop mobile applications or even applications for computers, desktop. So the question may come, what can I do as a computer programmer? So if you are somebody who codes, what are some of the things that you can do with that? And if you can do so many things with code, we would have organized that slide very well. But you can do almost everything. You can automate your own tasks. There are some things that I written. So if there are some routine things that I do, I can write code for it, just run a simple script, and then that particular thing will be done for me. And the question also is, how do I code well and become a better programmer? If I should be very honest with you, the only way to learn this thing and to know it very well is to practice. If you don't practice, you will not be good at it. And you should practice. I mean, the practice should be consistent. You should practice daily if possible. I do my best to practice daily. Sometimes there can be a day or two in between that I don't write code at all. But on average, I do write code every day. And that's at least 3 4 hours I use that one to write code. So the more you do it, you encounter errors, you find solutions to them, the more you gain experience from those mistakes. And even as as you do things repeatedly, they kind of stick in your mind and your understanding becomes brighter upon those concepts also. And what areas can I work in? This question I'll also use it to answer the part where we are asking what we can do with coding. You can work in tech companies all over the world. Tech companies employ a lot of staff in other disciplines, but they also employ people who can code or understand code. If you do code, you can work in tech companies around the world. And then you can also develop web, desktop, and mobile systems and applications. And you can also be a machine learning or artificial intelligence engineer. That is, you develop machine learning models or build artificial intelligence systems. Given the rise of AI in, I think from last year till now, I think if you are a developer with the AI or machine learning experience, you can look at a very bright future. You can also do what we call data analysis. Now, there is a lot of data available. If you have programming knowledge, it really helps you to analyze data. There are times where I resort to code to analyze my data instead of the graphical user interface softwares, because when you do things with code, you actually have full control over what you are doing. If I use a software for data analysis, like let's say Excel, I am bound to use the tools and the functions or the commands that the the Excel developers, sorry, the Excel developers have put in the software. If I want to do something and it is not part of what they put in, then it means I cannot do it with Excel. But if I'm writing code for any analysis, then I can do that to suit what I'm doing at the moment. So it comes with a lot of advantages if you yourself too can code. Okay, so now we look at what we need to code and how do we start. We need the programming language, which in our case is Python, and then an integrated development environment, which I promise that today I will explain further. The word integrated makes us understand that it is not just a system, it's more than one part or components that are coming together. So we have integrated more than one component together. And usually the word development or a developer is used to refer to people who code. So you usually see here, oh, developers or software developer or something like that. Once you hear the word developer, usually they are referring to people who code. So a development environment is an environment that we write code in and do all the things that are associated with computer programming, like debugging, which means finding errors in the code, and code testing and all that. So an IDE usually consists of so many parts, but principally there should be what we call an editor, which is just a place where you type and edit code. So, and then there is also a debugger, which is a tool that helps you find errors in your code. And there is also, okay, depending on the IDE you are using, the tools coming in will be different. So when we are configuring the IDEs, I'll show you the various components of the IDE. Okay, so that part is done. I'll give further explanations as we move along. And so we will get to the parts where we will configure our IDEs and then start writing some code. So the configuration is different for each of the IDEs. Visual Studio Code's own is a little simpler. I can't really say so, but we will work on Visual Studio Code first. So if you are the type that will use PyCharm, you can now sit back and then watch session. I think I should try and give notes of the timestamp so that in the app. Okay. So I'll bring up my Visual Studio Code. If you have it, you can just click on your start menu, search for code, CODE, and then open it on the other screen. Let me bring it. This is my Visual Studio Code window. Usually when you open it, it will show you some welcome screen. You may not have this recent that I have here. This part, the recent part, you may not have it. And that is because you have not done any works with it. If you have done some works with it, it will show for you. In order to get it started for Python development, you see that even they kind of recommend it here. Get started with Python development. It comes as part of they know people use Python a lot, so they try to make it simpler for Python developers. You can click on it, it will show you what to do, but that is what I'm also coming to show you what to do. So you can just follow what I'm doing. Visual Studio Code was not written specific for Python. So you have to install some things to make it work well with Python. And we call those things extensions. If you look at the left side, where, sorry about that, there's some icons here at the left side. And the last one, I think, so should be extensions. Depending on your platform, the icons arrangement might be a little different. But in any case, look for the one that says extensions, usually the last one. And if you put your cursor on it, it will tell you here. And at the extensions tab, we want to search for some particular extensions. And so for Python development, we want to search for the word Python itself. The developers of this environment, which is Microsoft, have created a package that will help us use Python. And you can see from the search results here, my screen zoom is not really working smoothly like I expected it. So you see Python IntelliSense, the one with the Microsoft badge. That is what I want you to download. This one. So make sure you see the Microsoft badge. It is coming from Microsoft and we can trust it. What I want you to do with that is to click on it. When you click on it, you have 3 buttons here at the right. Currently, I have it installed, so you see uninstall over there. But if you don't have it, if you have not installed it, it will tell you to install. Make sure you install it. And then another very important extension that we need, and I think that will be the last one for Visual Studio Code, is what we call Code Runner. That one too was developed by someone called John Han, if I'm getting the name correctly, this guy. So just look for the one that was developed by this guy, John Han, and then you click on it also. I don't think I even have it installed. That is great, so that you and I can both install it. So you see that this one, I don't have Code Runner installed. So I will just click on this install to install it. So let me just do that right away. And this Code Runner, what it will do is it will help us run our code. That is what it does. So it's done installing. And the Python IntelliSense tool will provide us with options like code coloring, which more technically is called syntax highlighting. It will help us find errors in our code. And it will also help us complete our code with auto-completion and all that. Okay, so now that we have all of them in place, let us come back to the empty Visual Studio Code window. Please also monitoring the comments, the messages session. So if you have any comment, you can drop it in and I'll address it. Thank you. This is the window. The top here, we have the default menu items that we have in most software. So the file, edit, view, and those ones. We will not go through all of them, but if you want to create a project, you can use it, the file menu to do that. So if I go up, I click on file, you see that I have those options here, the regular options, open file, and all those ones. Edit tool has those editing commands like undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, which I know all of us are familiar with. At least for now, the rest we don't have to worry ourselves with it. And then the view, we will get to that part later. These places are more of a little technical, and we can't explore everything at once. It will actually not even be the best thing to do. So as and when it is necessary, we will get to use each and every tool. By the end of this whole 21 days, you easily know your way around it and know which tool to use for what you want to do. So at the left side here, the icons here, we have the Explorer icon. The Explorer icon, that is where if we create a folder, project, we open a file, all those contents inside that folder will be shown at the Explorer. And this is also a global search. So if we have a lot of files we are working on, want to search for anything in any file, we can use this global search to do that. And this is source control, which is for something we call version control. I think I've not really factored it in the 21 days, but I think it is something that I should because you need it as a developer. And then there is run and debug. I mentioned earlier on that every IDE has a debugger, or is one of the things that qualifies an app to be an IDE. And a debugger is just something that helps us to find errors in our code. It is there's this popular story about the first computer programmer, I think Ada Lovelace or so, and then her computer was not working. So she dismantled it and found out that there's a bug, an actual bug, the animal bug, the small animal, on one of the computer's components that was not causing it to work. So the term was coined that from that incident that any error in a computer program is called a bug. So if you debug, you're removing the errors from it. So if we want to do any debugging, that is also the tab that will help us. And the extensions, I believe we already explored that one. Okay, I think I have some comments. Let me see. Yes, this process is different for those with phones. I am currently using Visual Studio. The IDE I'll be using for this training, I will try and switch between the two, at least for the first maybe 5-10 days. And later on, I'll just be using one of them. So anyone I feel comfortable with. I just don't want to like stick to one so that if in case you are using PyCharm and I'm using Visual Studio Code, you feel like I'm leaving you behind or I'm not using what you are using. So I'll just be switching between the two. If you can do that and follow me also, it will help you so that you get yourself familiarized with the environments, both of them. So that's it for this side. And this side, is usually it's actually the largest side. This place is where we'll be doing most of the work. It is where the editor is. But currently, because we have not opened any file, we will not see the editor in action. We will create a project very soon at this place, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. In fact, I think we can just go ahead and create a project. A project is just a folder on your computer. Usually, when you are working on any project, whether it's personal, academic, or otherwise, you create a folder maybe on your desktop, inside your documents, wherever you are comfortable with. And that is where you store all your files. And so, in programming terms, a project is just a folder where your files are located. What I will do is I'll minimize VS Code, and this is my desktop. I will create a new folder by right clicking, and then I'll go to new and choose folder. Maybe I want to name it Python Bootcamp, like that. So you can see that's my folder name, Python Bootcamp, and that is where I'll store all the files for this bootcamp. So in that case, this will become a project if we open it in Visual Studio Code. Okay. There are two ways to do this, to open it in code. I can drag and drop this folder like this and bring it in. When I leave it, automatically Visual Studio Code will open to that place. And you can see that it has done that. So Visual Studio Code has read the folder and we can work in it. Now this becomes our project that has been opened. Okay. Usually, if that is the first time you are creating a project in such a folder or such a place, it will try to protect you by restricting some editing access. So if you trust the authors of the project, usually maybe if I send you code or you download code from online, there can be anything in that code, including a virus. So it tries to protect you. But if you trust the authors, you can just say click yes, I trust the authors. But in my case, I want to trust all the folders from the desktop. So I'll check this box before I trust the authors. So now it will open for me. I can close this welcome here at the top. And in Visual Studio Code, you see that when I come to the top of the folder, when I put my cursor on the folder like this, I get some icons that also show up here. When I put my cursor on this one, it tells me to create a new file. This is a new folder, and this is to refresh the Explorer. Sometimes it doesn't really refresh like we want it to do. These are software, anything can happen. And if we have opened so many folders in a nested tree, you get to know all of these things. They will make sense very soon. We can use this one to collapse them. So I will create a file here. So when I click on it, it brings up this empty form field or area where I can type something, which is now the name of the file that I'll be creating. I can call it anything, but I will choose the name main. Sorry about that. I think it is not trying to. Okay, let me just zoom out and do the test, the typing, and then I'll zoom in again. If I type main, I have to add .py. The py here is what we call the extension. Anything that follows the dots is what we call an extension. So if I send you a zip file, you see that there will be the name, and then there will be another one that is attached .zip, which is to tell you that it's a zip file. If we don't add the .py, see that if I delete the p, the symbol here changes to another thing that I don't even know what it is. That means that the p is an extension for another type of file. But once I add the y, you see that it gives me the Python symbol. This is the Python logo. So that tells me that the py is a Python file. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, then every time you have to manually add the .py extension to your files when you create them. So I'll just press enter to accept the changes. You see that immediately it tries to open it up for me. So this is the editor I was talking about. This place that you see a blinking cursor, test stuff. Now it is a place where we can type. And we know that we can type because we have this blinking cursor. Let me zoom in really wide. You will see the cursor I'm talking about. I think this is the maximum zoom I can have. But you see that something is blinking. And if you have used any text editing application like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you know that this indicates that we can type there. So I'll go ahead and type in maybe the word Python itself. You can see that I've typed Python. And immediately something has popped up here that Python is not defined. Don't be scared about this thing. It's just the work of the Python extension that we installed. It's taking some time to load. The Python, I have more than one installed, more than one extensions installed. You can go through the extension store, whichever one, the description you think will help you in your project to install. But this error here is rendered because of this Python IntelliSense that we installed. So it is the one that is giving us this error. Other than that, the error would have been shown when we run the code, but this guy I've highlighted here is helping us to spot the errors before we even run our application. So we can type our code here. We will not type it now. We are just navigating the IDE. But I think I should actually do it because I want other parts of the IDE to show also. Another important part that we will interact with in Visual Studio Code is we will use the terminal, what we call the terminal. Usually when the output of our code comes, it will come into the terminal. You see this little circle at the top here of the main. That means the file has not been saved. If I press Ctrl S, see that circle is gone. That means our file has been saved. So anytime you make changes, just make sure you press Ctrl S to save your file. Other than that, it will not run the recent version of it. If I go back to the folder on the desktop. When I open it, okay, it's open on the other screen. Let me bring it. When I open it, you see that the Python file is inside here, the file I created. That's the name main.py. So when you create the file in VS Code, it will show in the folder also. If I just type in something, say print, don't be scared about what this one is. For now, I will explain everything. And then when we install the code runner, what the code runner does is it provides us an interface at the top here. I've not really touched on that one. You will see some three buttons at the top right here. The first one says run code. It looks like a play button. So when we click on it, what to do exactly what it is saying, it will run our code for us, which in other words means execute the code. And that is made possible because of the code runner. If we don't install the code runner, when we click on this, we will also get an error. Because what it does is, I told you initially that the language itself is just like an interpreter, like it mediates between us and the computer. So there are some commands that we generally type. If we are running the code by ourselves, we have to open our command prompt or any other terminal and type in some command to run the file. But the code runner does that heavy lifting for us. So once we install it and click on this green, or if you are using a light theme, it might be green, but once you click on this play button at the top, Code Runner will do the heavy lifting for you by looking for the Python where it is on your computer and giving it this file for it to run. So I will click on this at the top here. And then you see that another window has opened down here where we see problems, outputs, debug console, and then the terminal and ports. For now, the problems is where when we have errors or mistakes in our code, it will direct us to that place so that we correct them. The output, of course, is where our output will be. And then the debug console is when we are finding errors in our code. This is the place we will use to do that. And the terminal, also, we can use it to run the code itself. We can also use it to perform some specific tasks, which we will get to know as we progress in these 21 days. The ports, you may not really need it now. So when the time comes, I'll explain that one also. But among all the many things we see here, whatever it is, however cryptic it looks, don't focus on any of them. Just focus on this hello text that is here. I just wanted to show you that if we run the code, we will get something like this. And that means that this is where our output would be all the time that we run our code in Visual Studio Code. So that is where. So what is at the top here is what Code Runner is doing for us. You can see that it is calling Python and then the file that we have created. So we see that it's locating my desktop here, locating the Python Bootcamp folder, and then the file that I created. So if we didn't install the code runner, that means that we would have typed this command every time we want to run our Python code. So that's the thing that code runner is doing for us. So without code runner, you have to type this that I've highlighted every time you want to run your Python code. And so you can choose to do that also. And this place just tells us that it is successful and it took this time to run. Exit code 0. I think if I try to explain all of this, will be too much. I don't think it is too much. In programming, I know it is a little weird to say that 0 means successful, but if you run your code and the output code that comes with it is 0, then it means your code did run successfully. Other than that, then it means there was an error. If it is 1 or any other number, it is an error. So I think that should be okay for us to navigate around Visual Studio Code. At least for now, we know where we can create a new file and then where we can type the code, where we can run it, which is this place at the top here. And then when we run it to where we will see our output, which is this terminal down here. Okay, so I will leave this space and then, oh, there are some new comments. Let me check them out. Okay, Bridget, sorry about the voice. I'll try and increase it. Let me bring up the volume of my microphone and be close to it as much as I can. Yes, Bridget, you can choose to install one of them, but I'm just trying to present you options here. The PyCharm requires a lot of resources and computational power to run. So if your computer is not that powerful, I don't want you to stress your computer because of this camp. That is why I'm saying that if your computer is not that powerful, then go with Visual Studio Code. But you can have just one of them and you'll be fine. So I'll minimize Visual Studio Code, get back to my folder. If you check the box I told you to check during the installation, the box that will add the open as folder to your context menu. When you right click on a folder or the folder you have created, you should see PyCharm as part of these options. And then you can see mine here. It says open folder as PyCharm project. That is one of the ways to open it as a PyCharm project. But I would like to open the software itself and take you through how to open a folder or how to create a project. PyCharm's own is a little bit complex than the VS Code's own. So instead of going through the shortcut here, I will do the manual one for you. But later on, you can just click on the shortcut and then it will work for you. Richard Esiama, I think you should be sure that you have saved your file. If you have not saved your file, it will not work. So save your file and then run the code again. Okay, my PyCharm is opening, but it's opening in the other window. Let me bring it. Okay, so for the PyCharm people, this is the interface that you see probably when you open it at first with some banner beneath here. You may not see this I'm working on currently. And so you may not have these ones here. This left side, the things here, we don't need them now. But if you want to learn your way around the IDE, you can click on this learn here. It will give you some interactive courses that will help you know the IDE. I really recommend that you click this learn here. But for now, let me show you how to create a project. So there are 3 ways here to get it started. At the top here, we can see. Okay. I'm trying to combine multiple screen zooms and screen interactive software, and it's not really allowing me. So let me just use one of them. It gives us 3 options here. One is to use the default new project process to create it, or we can open an existing folder on our computer, like the Python Bootcamp we have on our desktop, or we get it from version control system, which I said I will factor in and let us know what it is. For now, let us click on new project. You will not see all the things at the left side here, especially if you are using the community version. This is the version. That is why all of these things that you are seeing are here. All these options are here. You may not have all of them. That doesn't mean that what you are using will not work. It will work for you. There should be an option that says Python or pure Python. That is what you should be interested in. So you can locate that one, and here the name of the folder. So I can now say maybe 21. Oh, sorry. PyCharm folder afterwards, and then link the two files to one folder using the other method. But I want to show you this method also. And this place where you see the location is telling us where it will be created on our computer. So the particular folder where this folder will also be located. If it is your desktop, then fine. So when you click on this small folder icon here, you can browse to where you want to create the particular project. I think it has opened it somewhere. Yes, it has opened it on my other screen. So this is the window that popped up. You see, this one is a little bit difficult to navigate. If you are not used to this tree-like kind of directory structure or folder structure, if I'm not being too technical. But if you look through the options that are here, if it takes you somewhere that you don't even understand the things that are here, just click on this home at the top here, the icon home here. When you click home, it will take you to whatever your username is on your computer here. So my name is Tommy. That is my home folder. And on the home folder, if you scroll down just a little bit, you should start seeing some folders you are familiar with, like desktop, documents, downloads. So in order to open that particular folder, like the desktop folder, you see this arrow-like icon at the left. You can just click on it. When you click on it, it will show all the contents that are inside my desktop folder. So you can see the Python Bootcamp folder I created is there, and some other folders also are there. So if I want to create it inside the desktop, I will select desktop. If I select Python Bootcamp, it will create another folder inside this selected folder, and then that is where it will create my project. But I want it on the desktop, so I'll select the desktop and collapse this one. And then once it is selected, I can click OK. Okay, there are no questions. So, but if you know the parts, you can type it in here directly, or you can copy and paste it. Here, it tells us whether it wants to create a main.py file. You know, that is the name of the file we created in the VS Code also. So I'll check it. You don't have to if you don't want to. And the interpreter that I was mentioning, they call the Python, should I say the Python? I don't want to be too technical. Should I say the Python software, if that is appropriate or understandable? It is called an interpreter because it interprets our code to the computer, like literally. So it's asked us which interpreter we want to use. There's a project VENV, which stands for Project Virtual Environment. And if we say that it will create a virtual environment for you, it means that it will look at the Python that you have on your computer, copy that Python, create a copy of that Python, and use it for your project. So that if you add any packages or any other thing that you install, will be only specific to your project and your project alone. It will not worry the Python you have installed on your computer. It will create a copy of it and use it for your project. And it is really, really recommended that you do that so that you don't load your default Python with a lot of packages that you don't even need all the time. So if I'm creating a project for maybe artificial intelligence, I just create a copy of my Python, which now is called a virtual environment, Virtual because it is not the actual Python itself, it is a copy of it. So I create a copy of it where I will install all the packages that are only related and specific to artificial intelligence, so that my default Python will just be there, and then it will not be bothered by things that I will not need uh, for my universal use. So once you click on project EMV, PyCharm will create it for you, so you don't have to worry about that one. I will show you how to change the name if you don't want it. So when that is done, you can just click on create. It is creating it on my other screen. When it finishes, I will bring it. So you can see that is now creating my virtual environment for me, which is also to say that it is creating a copy of the Python that we installed yesterday. Oh no, sorry, 2 days ago. It's creating a copy. So at this point, I'll have no nothing to do than to wait for it to finish. Maybe I'll use that one to check if there are no comments also. Worried that something is wrong, but I'll forget about this virtual environment and then walk through the interface. Technically, difference between all of them. At this left side here, okay, I will come to this for you. For the latest versions of PyCharm, you usually see this Microsoft Defender configuration. It is nothing harmful. You can allow it. So it's just Hello everyone. I'm very sorry. I just realized that the stream ended. I don't know why it did so, but I'm back. Please, if you hear my voice, kindly let me know. Uh, yes, I'm very, very sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm back now. Please let me know. And let me know exactly where I left off so that I can. Bridget, your comment is very recent. Is my screen still not showing? Okay, Julius, apart from hearing, can you also see my screen? Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's kind of a bit difficult to keep an eye on the two screens at the same time, but I'll try and check it as often as I can. Okay. I think I should remove that comment. Okay. And so let me assume that the whole of the PyCharm interface did not appear in the stream. So I'll start that part again. At the left side here, we see the project icon. When we click on it, this place is for structure. There are a lot of other ones, but they choose to hide them inside the More Tools windows. So if I want to find any other tab or screen or window, I can come to the More Tools and find it. But in most cases, like 99% of the cases, it will be in the project page. So this folder here, the 21 days PyCharm, is the name of the project that was created on my desktop. You can see it from here. That you can see desktop here. And inside it, you can see a folder. We know that it's a folder because it has this folder icon called .venv. The library root is not part of the name. That .venv is the name of the virtual environment that was created for us. And we will not be opening this folder. We will not touch it. Like we will not do anything to this folder. So we just have to leave it as it is. That is where the Python copy is. And this main.py file is the file that was created for us. Remember when I was creating the project, there was a box that said, create a main.py welcome script, which I said yes to. So that is what created this for me. If I didn't check that box, it wouldn't have created this. And the external libraries, we will not go into those places. Scratches and consoles, we will not be doing anything with those ones also, at least for the purpose of this bootcamp. So we can only focus on the main project folder and then whatever is inside it. And this one is not like VS Code. It doesn't really have the icons that you can use to create a new folder or a new file. If we want to create a new file, now we can right click on the particular folder we want to create the file in. In this case, the only folder we have is the venv, which I have said we will not touch. It's just the copy of the Python. We don't want to disturb it, because if we do mess up things there, it will really bring problems. So I right click on the 21 days PyCharm, which is the project folder. And if I want to create a new file, okay, so let me delete this main.py file. I can right click on it and then go down and find delete. I think there's a pop-up that should come. And then I'll delete so that we can create a file afresh. So I will right click on 21 days PyCharm, which is my project folder. And let's say I want to create a new folder before a new file. So the technical name for a folder is a directory. So most of the times you hear developers say directory. So I would be glad if for from henceforth, if like say we're asking a question on the page, you can say, oh, it is located in this directory. I don't want to hear you saying folder. So don't worry about all of these ones. Most of these are coming because I'm using the professional version. Don't worry about all of them. If they don't show, you are not losing anything. So I'll create a directory. That command will bring up this small window here that prompts me to enter the directory name. So I'll go ahead and enter day 1 because today is the first day. And then after that, I can hit enter on my keyboard or return. And okay, Sindhu, if I got the name right, you don't need network to work on PyCharm. You don't actually need network to work on VS Code also. But if you are installing packages, as we will get to know, then you need network to download and install it. But if you are just creating a project, doing some stuff like we are doing, you will not need network to run PyCharm. It's offline. So we see that the day 1 folder has been created in here. And so I want to now create a file inside this day 1 folder. So I can right click on day 1 folder. I know that it is selected because it is yellow here. Yours may not be this. I forgot to mention, really forgive me. There's a way to install a theme, which is just the coloring of the stuff in your IDE. When you click on the settings at the top right here, this place, there's a settings icon that should be there. When you click on it, the things that will pop up, you should see themes in here, theme. And when you click on the theme, things will pop up. You will not have all of these. You will not have all of these. I think you only see dark lights and lights with heather. Maybe you will see Dracula. I don't know whether you see that one. Maybe you will see high contrast also. And up to, I think up to intelligent light, yeah. Sorry, let me bring that up again. Yes, you see up to intelligent light, but oh, where did this thing go? Themes again, not key map themes. Sorry, my a little with me. So if you put your cursor on any of the themes, you see that the IDE's coloring changes. Now I put it on light and you see everything as white. I'm zoomed in for you to see. That is why I don't see my whole IDE. But if you do it at your end, you will see it. There is also one called Dracula. I think that is the default one that will come with yours. So you may not have that yellow coloring of my folder. Initially it was colored yellow, but yours may be this blue. Yeah, you are not losing anything. It's just an extension that I installed. So if you want to use this theme and you are in PyCharm, I think I like it. It's called Monokai. Was I using Monokai or OneDark? You can come to install here. And then inside here, Kai. Okay, it says nothing was found. Let me clear the text and say Monokai. It should bring it up. Yes, Monokai Pro theme. Because I already have it installed, you will not see the install button. In that case, when you come to themes, you will also see Monokai here. I think I selected, and in that one, when I select a 10, it will not give me that blue background. It will give me this color yellow. So back to the creation of the file. I click on day one, go to new. I think I'm zoomed in too much. Okay, sorry about that. Go to new, and then I choose Python file because that is what I want to create. So I choose it, and again, it will bring this window that usually comes up when you want to create a new item. And here I type the name of the file. So I'll go with what I use in VS Code main. But here you don't have to add a .py. You can bring it, it will not cause a problem. But if you're using PyCharm, you don't have to bring the .py. The PyCharm was made specifically for Python. So if you type main and hit enter, the IDE will automatically add the .py for you. You've seen it here. I didn't add the py, added it for me automatically. If you also bring it, it will use what you typed, but if you don't bring it, it will bring it by itself. So this place where we see the one now becomes our editor. Remember, we introduce ourselves to the editor in VS Code. So this big black area is where we will type our code. It's called the editor. And I don't think the location of these tools are so different in both IDEs, because if I type exactly what I did in VS Code, yes, say hello. And the coloring will also depend on the theme I am using. So if your coloring is not the same, it's because of your theme. Once the text is the same as I type, you don't have any problem. Just like VS Code, if I look at the top right, I'll see the icons I can use to run my code. Display icon. See, when I put the cursor on it, it just tells me to run main. And this back says debug it. You look at it in detail when we are introducing ourselves to errors and debugging. But if I want to see the output of this, my code, all I do is to click this green icon, and looks like we have our first error already. Wow. I was not expecting this, to be very honest with you. It's telling us that it's not finding this. How? It's not finding it. Okay. In PyCharm, we have something called configurations. I don't know. Am I introducing you to a lot of things? Please let me know. Well, it looks like I'm saying a lot of things. In PyCharm, we have something called configuration. It will bring the error again, I know. And that is because if you look carefully, I just hope the text, because I don't want to zoom in on this one. I just hope it is. This is the maximum zoom it can go. Once again, it's doing what the code runner was doing in VS Code. This one is not code runner, it's PyCharm doing it. It's calling the Python we are using. You can see here, forget about all of this. You just see Python here, know that it's calling Python. And then it's locating a main.py file. But Millicent, I will upload it to YouTube so you can follow up on it. If I'm not able to do it this night, I'll do it early in the morning, as early as I can. Okay, engineer, I will go through the creation of the folder again. So I will delete the day one folder. I will just right click on it like this, scroll down till I find delete. I should have some pop-up, so I'll delete it. And then if you want to minimize this place too, there's a minus sign here, so you can hide it here. And this is my project folder. If I put my cursor on it, you see that it tells me that it's on my desktop. And what PyCharm does is take the name of the projects that we gave it to create the folder. So on the desktop, if I go now, I'll see a folder called 21 Days PyCharm. And so that is what I want to create the day one folder in. So I'll put my cursor on it and then right click it. I will right click on the 21 Days PyCharm. As part of the pop-up menu that will come, I'll choose new because I want to create a new item. And in programming or development, we use the word directory for a folder. So because I want a new folder, I'll create a new directory. So I'll just click on new directory like this. And when I click on new directory, this new window dialog will pop up asking me for the name of the directory or the folder, which I don't want you to be using. I want you to be very technical people. So I'll give the name of the directory to be day one. And then when you are done, you just press enter or return on your keyboard. When that happens, you see that the day one folder is created also. Inside, you can see that it's inside it because when you look at the structure here, this icon is far to the left than this icon. That means that this VENV folder is inside the 21 Days PyCharm folder. If I open this one up, you see that this icon, the VENV, is far to the left than the LIB folder, which also means that the LIB is inside the VENV. Let me close this place because I said we shouldn't touch it. And so it tells us that our day one has now been created inside the 21 Days PyCharm. And I want to create a new file in this. So I'll right click on it, go to new, and then as part of the options that will come, I choose Python file. If you want to create another file, you can use this here because when we get to a certain point, like file input and output, we'll be creating files and that one will be using this. But this is a specific file like a Python file. And then click on Python file. Our new window dialog will pop up, a new file dialog, sorry, asking us for the name. It can be anything first. Actually, the name can be anything. Like if you want to type anything, you can type anything. But by convention, we usually type main, which is the name of the Python file. And when you finish that, you can just press enter. PyCharm will create it for you, and then we'll open it up in the editor for you to be able to edit it. You are welcome, engineer. And so I'll go ahead and then type what I did again. You see that I'm having some auto-completion. I have not typed this hello. Sorry, I did not mean to show you that. Okay, it's not really working for me. Okay. I did not mean to, I have not typed this hello world you are seeing in there. And the autocomplete is coming because I'm using the professional edition. So if you don't see it when you do yours, it isn't a problem. Just go ahead and type it as you see. I have done it here. So it is thinking that I want to type the same line again. I don't want to do it. Should there be a way for me to disable this auto-completion? If it is worrying you, you can let me know. I'll find a way to disable it. Other than that, I think I will go with it. And if I want to run this file or execute it more technically, I will click this green at the top here. And I will get my error again. I was expecting it. And the file it says open file, no such file or directory. And if this was if audio was enabled, I would have really loved one of you to tell me what the error is, because this error is very, very visible. This is the Python we are using, and this is the file we are calling. But if you look at my project folder here or my project structure here, that file does not exist. It is looking for a file which is directly inside this 21 days PyCharm folder called main. But when we collapse to see all the children, there's no file like that, only a folder called day one and the VENV. So our configuration at the top here, even though we see the file name or main, it is not referring to the main file that we have currently created. So just go in there. There are a lot of ways around it. You can choose to run the current file, but I don't want you to mess up things that will confuse you. So different from the VS Code mode of running our Python files, in PyCharm, if you want to run it, I will always recommend every time to right-click inside the file in the editor, and then you usually see run main. It is adding 1 to it because it has already run a previous file that was called main. So it is just trying to keep track of the number of main files we are running, if I should say so. So in PyCharm, always right-click and then choose the run that shows. Okay, engineer, if your exit code is 0, then it means you are successful. So when I right-click and run, now it is giving me an exit code of 0. No red text means that my IDE is not angry with me. So I see my hello world and my exit code 0, which I have said before that in programming, if you run your code and you see exit code to be 0, then it means everything was successful. Any number apart from this means that it was not successful. So I think if I intentionally delete one of these, I know it's an error, but let me run it and see the exit code that will come. You see that when I intentionally introduced an error, my exit code is 1. That means that it was not successful. So if I bring it back and then run it, now I'll get 0, which means that everything was successful. So this is where our output will also come in PyCharm. I think for now, it will suffice for us to know these features, where to create our folders and files, where to run our programs or edit it, and then where to run it and where our output will be. So that will suffice for the navigating our way around the IDEs. If you have any problem, you can put it in the chat so that I rectify it before I close chapter on this one. So if you are following carefully, you have actually finished the plan for today. This is our first program. If you say a program, it is just the file. Usually programmers they like to use technical words to confuse people, like words like algorithm, program, and for today what you have learned, directory. They are just simple terms. The program is just the file that you have created. This main.py file is the Python program. So that is it that we have created. And before we close chapter on today, because I would like to give you some trial assignments, which I have said in the onboarding meeting that it is completely voluntary. You don't have to do it. I will not require it to mark it. But if you have a problem, you can put it on the page or message me directly, and then I will solve it for you. You saw that I used the word, the statement print. You can call it the standard output manager for Python. We'll look into it in depth, but for now, take it as that, the standard output manager. If we want to see anything in our terminal or our console, we use the print statement. So, or the print function, sorry. And so look at the brackets like somebody who has opened the arms. So it's like somebody who has opened the arms to receive something. So wherever you see open and close round bracket like this, that means that we can put something inside for our code to use. When we get to functions, you understand this better. But I just don't want to be so technical. That is why I sometimes struggle to find appropriate words. Forgive me for that. So you can put anything inside here. You can put the number 10. If I put the number 10 here, Right click, run, it will show me the number 10. So whatever we put in here, it will run it. But for now, if you want to put in any statement like item, like a sentence like the hello world, please make sure you open either a pair of single or double quotes, and then you put your statement inside. Whether you use single or double quotes, it doesn't matter, but consistency is key. It actually shows that you are a good developer. So if I want to type in any statement, this is where I would type it. So if I want you to show me, say, twinkle, twinkle, little star, I think my twinkle. PyCharm has this powerful autocorrect feature. I think I am happy this came up. So when I hover over it, you see that it tells me that replace with the word twinkle. It has a built-in powerful grammar checker also. So it's that good. That is why I usually prefer it for core Python development than the Visual Studio Code, which is also equally good, but lightweight and more universal in terms of programming languages. So if I run this now, I'll see twinkle, twinkle, little star here. If I want to print out multiple things or multiple lines, there is a way I can do all of them on one line. But for the purpose of today, I'll introduce another print statement, and then I'll add it in how I wonder what you are. Okay, so now when I run it, it will print the two lines for me. If I should copy this code here and come to VS Code so that the VS Code people will not think I've abandoned them, and paste it in, you saw that in PyCharm, I don't save my file. I don't actually press Control S. And if I go to file at the top here, you see you only see save as, not save. PyCharm saves your file for you automatically. That is also one cool feature with Python that makes me like it. So it saves your file for you automatically. Like if it's not even saved at the moment, when you right click and choose run, it will save it before. But with VS Code, I will have to save it. You see now I have twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. But I have not saved it. And I told you that if it is not saved, you will see this red here, the white dot here. So I will click run to run it, thinking that I will see, I think the output is just so many. So if I want to clear the output, this icon here, the very first one, says clear output. So I can click on it. Oh, there's one comment, let me see. Okay, so I've cleared it. Now, when I run it fresh, you see that it's still saying hello, which is the content of the old file. That is because I have not saved it. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, every time you make changes, you press either Command S, or that is if you're on Mac, or Control S if you're on Windows or Linux. Now that I have saved it, if I run it, I will see the output that I am looking for. But in PyCharm, it will save it for me automatically. So for today, trial assignments, I will want you to, like following this style, just pick any poem or statement, anything that will take more than one line, and then use the print statements to display them to your terminal. You can take a shot of your results and put it on the page for us to celebrate you. And if you have an error too, you can put it on the page for us to look at it for you. That is it. The trial assignment for today is just as simple as that. Just pick any poem or statement that you like. It can be your favorite quote or anything like that. And just try and then make sure that it's multiple sentences and print each sentence on a different line. Okay. I think we may have to reconsider our 1 hour time. Yeah. Other than that, we may be extending it, and I'll not. It will be like I'm not saying the truth. So maybe I'm suggesting if you are cool with 1 hour 30, so that we know that instead of the live 1 hour sessions, it's 1 hour 30, so that you have enough time to explain things. Okay. So that will be for today. And so if there are any questions, I'll wait for 2 minutes for you to type it in the comments, and then I will respond. Other than that, I will bring the stream to an end, and then we will all have the time to do what we are doing. Okay, Edmond, I will explain why we put the quotation marks on tomorrow when we are looking at data types. Yes, but you can equally put the 10 in quotation marks and it will show. You see, I have 10 here. It will show. But this 10 and the 10 without quotation marks in the computer's memory are not the same. In fact, tomorrow, if I forget, please try and remind me. I'll try and show you how the computer sees text. You are seeing HOW, but I'll try and show you how the computer sees text. These things that we type, what the computer sees it to be, so that you understand really what it is that Python is doing for us when it is translating or interpreting our code to the computer. Okay. 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 So I think we can vote on the page as engineer you are suggesting, so that we can. You Bridget also is suggesting it, so that if 6 p.m. or that is the UTC 18 hours is okay for all of us, then we can start there and close at 19:30 GMT. Okay. So I believe there are no questions now. So I will end the stream. And then if I'm not able to upload it, this evening, I'll do so early morning for us all. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.